trusted my husband with all our finances, only to discover he had secretly gambled away our entire savings and taken a loan without telling me, leaving me with massive debt, a broken home, and the feeling that I never really knew him at all. I'm 30 now. I live in a small apartment in Columbus, Ohio, the kind of building that reeks of new paint and muted remorse. 6 months ago, I had a house, a wife, and a future that was secure, maybe even dull. I didn't know just how much I loved dull until the day it was all taken from me. Her name is Maya, 31, smart and funny and impossible not to love. I met her when I was 24, at the car lot where she came in to buy her first SUV. I remember the way she smiled when I told her that I could get a better deal for her, as if she knew I was not telling her the truth but enjoyed the effort. We started dating a few weeks afterward. She was working in finance, and it suited her perfectly well, always so prepared, always so scheming. I was the opposite. I was a go-with-the-flow type of man. She would say that we balanced each other out. Perhaps that did work at one time. We were wed 3 years later. It wasn't fancy, just a small ceremony in her parents' yard. I remember her father telling a joke that I should not miss anniversaries since finance girls keep receipts. I laughed loudly as though it were funny, but he was right. Maya kept everything in check, every dollar, every hour. She took care of our finances because really, I was not that good at it. I'd been brought up by parents who lived paycheck to paycheck. We never spoke about savings or investments. Bills were paid when they could be. Maya didn't appreciate that attitude, so she pushed back early in our marriage. "You build it, I'll maintain it," she said to me. That was fine by me. I had every confidence in her. When she said we should start saving to purchase a home, I was thrilled. We both worked at it. She worked for a local business, and I'd worked my way up to sales manager at the dealership. By the time I was 28, we had enough money for a down payment. She found a 3-bedroom in a respectable area with a big oak tree out front and a fenced-in yard. I wasn't interested in square footage or mortgage rate. I was interested in her. The way she stood in the empty living room and said, "This is it, Ethan. This is where we'll build everything." I remember thinking I was fortunate. She was lovely in a manner that didn't fade, the kind that made you think you had cause to work that small bit harder every day. The first year of residence in the house was idyllic. We painted walls, we acquired a rescue dog called Milo, we had barbecues at the weekend. Life wasn't melodramatic. It was quiet. That's why it was so long before I noticed the gradual changes. Maya became more withdrawn at night, looking at her phone more often, shading her laptop screen as I walked by. I assumed it was work stress. She'd been pursuing a promotion, and her company had been laying off employees. I asked if she was okay. She'd nod and say, "I'm just tired." That's how it always started, small answers that seemed fine. Then there were bills that didn't make sense. One from a credit card company I hadn't heard of, another from a loan company I hadn't seen. When I asked her about it, she dismissed it. "Oh, just balance transfers. I'm restructuring our debt." She said it so casually. I didn't give it any thought. I wish I had. One night, about 4 months ago, I came home from work late. Maya wasn't home. Her car was gone, and the house was dark except for the glow off her laptop. I opened it, not out of suspicion, but because of habit. But my stomach dropped at what I saw. It was an email from a bank, which informed me that they had approved a $40,000 loan in our names. I numbly. We didn't need a loan. We were fine. I scrolled on and found a dozen transactions, online gaming sites, casino programs, online gambling forums. My wife, the woman who had sermonized about responsibility and budgets, had been gambling for months, possibly years. When she came home, I confronted her. She tried to deny it at first, told me that I didn't get it, that it wasn't what I thought, but the truth came out fast. She'd started betting small during the pandemic for entertainment because she was bored. It was a habit, then an addiction. She explained to me that she'd been attempting to win it all back when I figured it out. She just kept saying it over and over, win it all back. as if the words were significant, as if it wasn't already gone. Our savings, our emergency fund, even my retirement account, she'd lost them all. And that loan, she'd taken it to cover the losses. I did not scream. I could not. I remained there, dazed, wondering how a person who was so able to control her life could lose control so completely. She cried, begged me to understand, vowed she would get help, that she would leave it all behind. I wanted to believe her. I did. But the calls started coming. Collections agency, banks, her boss over the phone telling her that she'd been sent on leave because of personal reasons. Something different each day struck me. A new bill, a new debt, a new lie. When I told my parents, they were stunned. My dad just looked at me and said, "Son, money comes and goes, but trust doesn't grow back." I knew he was correct. I loved Maya, thank God, but something in our marriage had shattered. And yet I stayed. I promised her we'd work it out together. We went to a counselor. She promised to give me control over the money. But still, she hid things from me. I'd find ATM receipts for places by casinos, late-night messages to unknown numbers sent to me. 2 weeks went by before I found another loan, smaller this time, though still in our names. I spoke up to her once again. She cried and confessed it, said she'd had a relapse. Something in me shut down that evening. I grabbed a bag, took Milo, and went. And I'm here now, in this little apartment with a dog who probably misses her more than I do. I'm drowning in bills for cash that I never even touched. I had filed for separation last month. There are nights I still look at her Facebook profile, hoping she's safe, hoping she's getting help. Other nights, I just stay in bed and try to reconcile in my mind how you ever really get to know someone. Maybe you don't. Maybe you just think what you want to think until it all falls apart. That night is replayed in my mind so many times, it's like a movie I can't turn off. I left that evening. It was raining, of course, because that is how these memories play out. Everything looks like it happens in a dramatic way beneath streetlights and wet pavement. I remember Milo complaining as I dragged my duffel bag out towards the car, its leash tied around my wrist. Maya was standing in the doorway, wearing one of my faded shirts, eyes puffy and reddened. She didn't say a word at first. Then she whispered, "Don't go, Ethan. I can make this right." The sound of saying my name shattered something inside of me. I wanted to want to believe her with everything, but I couldn't anymore. I said I needed space, time to think. She simply nodded, then said something I'll never be able to forget. I didn't mean to lose the money, I just didn't want to lose us. I didn't respond. I no longer believed words. The first few weeks alone were strange. I rented a one-bedroom apartment near downtown, above a diner that never closed. The smell of bacon and coffee wafted up through the walls every morning. I got used to it. My existence was plain again. Wake up, take care of Milo, go to work, return home, glance at bills that I did not know how I was going to pay. I tried not to think about Maya, but nothing reminded me of her. Her coffee mugs she had picked out, the road trip mix we'd compiled, the humming she'd do when concentrating. I even found myself missing her scribbled post-it writing that used to litter our fridge. It's strange how mourning gets you on small things. A month into it, she started calling. I didn't answer at first. Then I phoned her back one night after a couple of drinks. She was weak but positive. Told me she'd attended a recovery group that she hadn't gambled in 3 weeks. I told her that I was glad for her, asked me if I'd ever go back home. I replied that I didn't know. It was the truth. I still cared for her to some degree, but another part of me, the tired, bitter part, couldn't care less if I ever saw her again. We'd spoken almost an hour, the details of the ordinary. Her job, mine, Milo. I hung up and felt slightly better, as if maybe we weren't utterly broken. No long-term tranquility where money is involved, though. A week or so later, a letter arrived in the mail from a bank about an overdue account. Another loan I hadn't been informed of. My name was the listed owner. I called Maya right away. She swore she didn't take it, said it had to be forgery or identity theft. I wanted to believe her, but this time I went through everything myself. The signatures, the dates, the account numbers, all hers. I didn't even yell. I just sat there, dialing for what felt like an eternity before I finally hung up and stared at the letter. It was like my chest had collapsed in on itself. I called her parents the day after. Her mother, Lydia, answered. She's one of those kind women who bakes cookies when she's nervous. She sounded tired. She told them that Maya had explained everything to them too, that she'd stolen money from them to pay a few last debts. They'd already lent her thousands. We're scared, Ethan, she said gently. She's not herself anymore. I didn't know what to say. I apologized to her, even though it wasn't my fault. 2 weeks went by and Maya showed up on my doorstep. She was thinner, tired, and drained. She mentioned that she needed to speak face to face. Milo yelped and wagged his tail, confused and frustrated. I let her in. We sat on the couch like strangers at a waiting area. She started talking fast, explaining everything to me. How she'd returned to gambling after a fight with her mom. How she'd believed she could get out of it before you'd suspect anything. How she felt dirty. She said she was seeing a counselor now, that she'd cleaned up. I wanted to trust her, but trust is forged in more than words. Then she said something that encased my heart in ice. I used your name again because they wouldn't approve me alone. I'm sorry, Ethan. I just had one more chance to get it right. My mind was blank. One more chance. Those words burned my mind. I asked how much. She said 20,000. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because I didn't know what else to say. She cried. I couldn't even glance at her. I asked her to leave. She told me to stay married until she could get back on her feet. I said I'd think about it, but I knew that I was not telling the truth. The next day, I called a lawyer. We started the divorce documents. I didn't tell her right away. Maybe I was still hoping for a change. But when the phone rang, I was in terror. More collectors, more lies, more repercussions, my credit destroyed, my savings gone. I had to sell my truck to pay off the joint debt. My boss mentioned how my performance was lagging and I nearly lost my job. Everything seemed to be crumbling, bit by bit. And then, late one night, I got another call. At the hospital. Maya had been brought in following what they called an accidental overdose. I drove there in silence. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel. When I got to her room, she was sleeping, pale as a ghost, and hooked up to machines. The nurse told me she'd be okay physically. I sat with her for hours, staring at the woman I used to know. The person who used to prepare pancakes for me every Sunday, who used to give me a good luck kiss before I presented anything at the workplace. I wished I could hate her. But seeing her like this now, fragile and shattered, all I could feel was sympathy. When she came to, she started crying before she even uttered a word. She said she did not want to die, that she was tired of living like that she didn't know how to stop. I held her hand. I explained nothing, I only listened. She asked whether or not I still loved her. I said, "Yeah, but love's not enough anymore." She nodded as if she already knew. The hospital kept her for a couple of days. Her mom came by, her brother too. We all tried to fake being a family, even though it felt strange. She came to live with her parents after being let out. I returned home and spent hours sitting on the couch. The apartment felt emptier than ever. I remember thinking how strange it was that an individual can destroy your life and still be the person who scares you most. I started attending therapy after that. My therapist informed me that I had something called betrayal trauma. Fancy terms, but essentially it means you're split between anger and compassion, between wanting the person to get better and wanting them to never be. It rang true. I was living in that space, unsure which way to tip. A month passed, and I got another call from Maya. She said she was sober, attending meetings every week, improving slowly. She invited me to attend one of her sessions. I told her I'd consider it, and I did. daily. Part of me wanted closure. The other part was afraid I'd never have it. The night before I agreed to see her again, I barely slept. I was pacing my apartment, staring at the ceiling, attempting to work out what I'd even say to her. "What do you say?" "You ruined my life, but I hope therapy's been going well for you." When I thought about seeing Maya, I had two emotions warring within me. One was love, and one was fear. I wasn't afraid of her hurting me again financially. I was afraid of opening my life to her again emotionally because part of me still wanted that. I guess that's what betrayal does to you. It warps your sense of what's safe. When I finally went into that church basement where her recovery group was meeting, it was like a dream. The room smelled of coffee and bad donuts. There were folding chairs in a circle, stark fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. Maya was near the back, wearing a gray sweater and jeans, her hair pulled back. She was smaller somehow, as though the pressure of it all had compressed her from the inside out. When she looked up and saw me, tears sprang to her eyes, but she didn't get up. I took a seat beside her in silence. The leader started the session, and people started telling their stories. I listened as strangers spoke of how they had lost their houses, their families, their jobs, all because they could not give up that last win. Every word hit too close to home. When it was Maya's turn, she hesitated, then started speaking. Her voice was soft but steady. She talked of the lies, the hiding, how gambling had been her stress relief, how it gave her a high she could find nowhere else. She said she had centered her whole identity on numbers and control, and when she was losing control, she just dug in deeper, trying to fix it by betting more. And then she said something that has stayed with me. "I didn't gamble for money. I gambled for relief. I did not wish to win money. I wished to cease feeling like a failure." I did not look at her, but my chest tightened. For the first time, I felt something shift within me. Not forgiveness, but comprehension. We talked outside following the meeting beside her automobile. It was cold, our breath showing in the air. She thanked me for attending, said she didn't think I would, but that my presence gave her strength. I told her I was proud of her for getting help. It was not a big moment. No hugs, no vows, just quiet acceptance that maybe we'd never be who we'd been, but we didn't have to hate one another. She kept in touch over the subsequent weeks, short messages regarding meetings, updates on her progress. I replied sometimes not. I was still getting my own life in order. I'd started working double shifts to pay debt, taking on freelance work at night. My therapist said routine would be beneficial, and she was correct. The more I occupied myself throughout the day, the less time I had to spiral. I still had nights when I'd wake up and just lie there and think about what our life could have been if only she'd been truthful with me from the start. Then one morning, a few months after that encounter, Maya called and asked if we could meet for coffee. I said yes. We met at a small cafe near her parents' house. She looked healthier, shinier eyes, more relaxed hands. She said she was 6 months sober. I congratulated her. Then she rummaged in a folder and slid it across the table. "It's the paperwork," she said. "The final debts. I've been paying them off. I wanted you to see." I flipped through it and could see that she'd been working 2 jobs, doing everything she could to reverse the damage. I didn't know what to say. Then she said, "I'm not asking us to be together again. I just want you to know I'm trying to be better. For me, not you." There was something honest about that. No manipulation, no tears. Just the truth. I told her I respected her for that. We simply sat for a while in silence, drinking coffee like 2 people who had once been the world to each other, and were now 2 people who had a painful past. That night, when I got home, I looked around my apartment and saw how more peaceful my life was. The debt was still there, but it no longer had me pinned beneath its weight. Work was steady. I'd started running again, which I hadn't done since before the wedding. It was a feeling of momentum forward, but I knew that a part of me would always carry this story, in the way that a healed wound doesn't hurt, but never fully goes away either. A couple of weeks later, I ran into her brother Kyle at the grocery store. We chatted for a bit. He said Maya was doing well, that she'd been volunteering at her recovery group to help new members. That made me smile. He thanked me for hanging on longer than most people would have. I said it wasn't about being strong, just that it was hard to leave someone you love, even when you know you should. But recovery doesn't work in a straight line. A month later, Maya relapsed. She called me crying one night, said she'd gone to a casino just to look, and ended up losing $2,000. My heart sank, but I didn't react in anger this time. I simply said she needed to call her sponsor and get back to meetings. She did. I didn't go see her. I couldn't. I'd learned that loving someone doesn't necessarily mean rescuing them over and over again. Sometimes it means letting them rescue themselves. After that, I didn't hear from her as much. I think she knew I couldn't be her safety net anymore. I focused on piecing my life together. I got a gym membership, reconnected with old friends, even began dating again, though I kept things casual. I was still too guarded to let anyone get close. My therapist said that was normal. Said that trust takes a while to rebuild, and mine had been shattered in ways I hadn't even known. Then one Sunday morning, I got a letter in the mail. It was from Maya. No return address, just my name written in her handwriting on the envelope. Inside was a short letter. She was headed to Michigan to begin anew, that she'd paid off all her personal debts and was finally free. She wrote, "Thank you for not giving up on the version of me that still wanted to change. I hope you find peace, Ethan. You deserve it." I read it twice, then folded it and tucked it into my desk drawer. I did not cry, but I felt relieved, I suppose. Like the last chapter of our story had finally been laid to rest. I still think about her every now and then, when I see someone scratching off a lottery ticket at a gas pump, or if I hear about addiction on the news. I don't hate her. I don't even blame her anymore. I just wish she'd gotten help sooner. Maybe we'd still have that house, that dog, that simple life we thought would never end. But maybe we both needed to break so that we could find out who we really were. It's been a year now since Maya left for Michigan. I haven't heard from her since that letter, and honestly, I'm not sure I ever will. Sometimes I'll be going through my phone and stop on her name, my thumb hovering over it, wondering if I should just text, "Hey, how are you?" But I don't. There's a quiet acceptance in not needing closure anymore. Life has started to feel normal again. As normal as it can feel after everything's been ripped apart and you've had to rebuild from the floor up. I moved into a better apartment last month. Nothing fancy, but it catches the morning sun and has a small balcony where I sit and have coffee with Milo at my feet. That small moment of peace is a luxury now. Money is still tight. My credit is still rebuilding. But this time I've learned to manage it myself. I track each payment, each expense, each small victory. I guess in a twisted sort of way, Maya taught me that. Control, discipline, awareness. Those same qualities that she employed to hide her problem are the same ones I employ now to keep my life together. I started volunteering once a week at a local counseling center, helping people cope with financial strain. It's an irony, but helping other people untangle their mess helps me untangle mine. They come in panicked, embarrassed, scared, and I get it. I tell them the truth. Money problems aren't about math. They're about shame, fear, and denial. You can't fix your finances until you address what broke you in the first place. My therapist says that's why I stayed with Maya as long as I did. I was trying to fix what I didn't break. I had to rescue her because I couldn't stand being helpless. That still gives me a hard-on when I think about it. I was raised to believe that if you loved someone enough, you could get them to change. But now I know love doesn't cure anything. It can hold on, it can forgive, but it can't heal somebody who doesn't want to be healed. That's what they need to do by themselves. A couple of months ago, I saw a photo of her on social media. I don't follow her, but a mutual friend posted it. She looked well, smiling, outside what looked like a small cafe. The caption said she was working there part-time while finishing some certification course. I stared at that photo for a long time. Not because I missed her, but because of pride. She was alive again. I'd imagined her disappearing completely for a while, lost, defeated, gone. But there she was, smiling, and it was a reminder that people can recover from almost anything if they really want to. I closed the app and did not check again. That one picture was enough. These days I catch myself reflecting less on what happened and more on what I learned from it. I've learned that trust isn't control, but truth. I've learned that anybody, no matter how smart or responsible they may seem, can fall apart when life gets too much. And I've learned that forgiveness isn't something you do for the other person. It's something you offer to yourself when you're tired of carrying around pain. I took Milo out to the lake this past weekend. The same lake Maya and I would visit every summer when everything was still all right. We'd sit on the dock with sandwiches and cheap beer, talking about what we wanted from the future. I hadn't been back since the breakup, but I guess I needed to see it one more time, close the loop. The place hadn't changed that much. The same wooden dock, the same calm water, the same sound of children's laughter in the distance. I sat there for a bit, letting the wind hit my face. I thought about that younger me, the one who believed love and trust were unbeatable. I did not pity him. He was doing the best he could with what he knew. And yet I also knew I wasn't that man anymore. I'd been shattered, yes, but I'd also been remade into someone quieter, harder, and a little more careful with his heart. I think the hardest part of moving on isn't letting go of the person who hurt you. It's letting go of the version of yourself that you were before the hurt. That old version doesn't fit anymore. It's like wearing a jacket that used to keep you warm, but now just feels suffocating and odd. I've had to learn who I am again. I've learned to enjoy silence, to be okay with solitude. I cook more, walk further, phone my parents more. My dad said something to me a few days ago that stuck with me. You can't stop storms from coming, son, but you can learn to build a roof that doesn't leak. He's right. That's what I've been doing this whole time, building my roof. People ask me sometimes if I'd ever trust anyone with my money again, or even with my heart. The honest answer is, I don't know. I'd like to think so. I don't need to be bitter or paranoid. But I'll never hand over control like I did before. Not because I expect betrayal, but because I've learned that responsibility is part of loving. You can't give someone everything and then be shocked when they drop it. You have to hold some of it yourself. I have that letter from Maya in my desk still. I read it every now and then, not when I'm feeling melancholic, but as a reminder. A reminder that people are complicated, that the ones who hurt you the most are also the ones who can teach you the most. If 2 years ago you'd told me I was going to lose everything, my husband, my money, my stability, and be okay after, I wouldn't have believed you. But here I am. Not rich, not perfect, not even completely healed. But okay. And sometimes okay is enough. I was digging through some boxes last night and found a picture from our first year together. We were standing outside of that dilapidated house, grinning from ear to ear, paint spattered on both of our shirts from painting the living room. I was about to throw it away, but I couldn't do it. That picture is not about loss. It's about a moment in time when everything was okay, when love wasn't complicated. I put it back in the box and closed it. There are some memories that do not need to be destroyed. They just have to stay in the past where they belong. So yeah, this is my story. It's not dramatic or heroic. It's just what happened when trust met addiction, when love met reality. People think betrayal is one moment, one action. It's not. It's a bunch of small breaks until you realize you're standing in the ruins. But the remnants can still be the foundation of something new if you let them be. I guess that is what I've done. I have no clue where Maya is nowadays. Maybe she's still in Michigan. Maybe she's moved again. Maybe she's happy. I hope so. I hope she finally found peace, the kind that doesn't need to be chased or labored for. As for me, I'm still learning how to live again, one day at a time. And for the first time in a long time, I'm not afraid of what comes next.